大家好，我是刘荣洲律师。很多人问我说：“刘律师啊，你这个每天呢，这个又做节目又出庭，对吧？然后呢又见客人，又每天呢写东西，你怎么忙得过来？最重要的是，你怎么会有这个无穷的精力，对吧？”答案很简单，对吧？就是我们这个中华文化的瑰宝，2个字：针灸，不是一般的针灸。对吧？是 A+ 针灸，因为为什么呢？它不是 B， 也不是 C， 更不是 D， 它是 A， 不但是 A， 是 A+。所以呢，我强烈推荐 A+ 针灸。A+ 针灸是我的选择，也应该是你的选择。
It took 16 hours to read Trump's 940-page foot-high bill aloud. Now the long debate begins. Washington AP hours before a tumultuous, nearing midnight vote on President Donald Trump's package of tax breaks, spending cuts, and increased deportation money. A Republican senator stood on the chamber floor and implored the plan's critics. Read the bill after the dramatic 51-49 roll call late Saturday. Senate Democrats did exactly that, unable to stop the march toward passage of the 940-page bill by Trump's 4th of July deadline. The minority party in Congress is using the tools at its disposal to delay and drag out the process. If Senate Republicans won't tell the American people what's in this bill, then Democrats are going to force this chamber to read it from start to finish, said Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer by Sunday. Mid-afternoon, some 16 hours later, the clerk's reading of the nearly foot-high bill was done, and within moments the Senate launched debate, but it's still going to be a while, at least 10 hours of speeches. Stretching late into the night, the slow-walking tactic points to difficult days ahead. It's taken a while to get here, said Senator Lindsey Graham, RSC, the Budget Committee chairman, but we'll have a debate worthy of this great country. Republicans who have control of the House and Senate are closer to passing Trump's signature domestic policy package, yet there is political unease. Democratic lawmakers immediately launched fresh challenges against it, decrying the way they say Republicans are hiding the true costs by using unusual budgeting. A new analysis from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office Sunday estimates the Senate bill would increase the deficit by nearly $3.3 trillion from 2025 to 2034, a nearly $1 trillion increase over the House-passed bill. It also found that 11.8 million more Americans would become uninsured by 2034 if the bill became law, more than with the House's approach. Republican holdouts remain reluctant to give their votes, and their leaders have almost no room to spare, given their narrow majorities. Essentially, they can afford 3 dissenters in the Senate, with its 53-47 GOP edge, and about as many in the House, if all members are present. And voting House Speaker Mike Johnson, R-Law, had sent his colleagues home for the weekend. Trump, who has at times allowed wiggle room on his deadline, kept the pressure on lawmakers to finish, but the tense scene as voting came to a standstill for more than 3 hours Saturday night let the internal discord play out in public. In the end, Republicans Senator Thom Tillis of North Carolina and Rand Paul of Kentucky opposed the motion to move ahead, joining all 47 Democrats. Trump noticed the memo. SCOTUS clears the way for Trump and for his successors. Senate megabill would explode debt and kick 11.8 million off Medicaid. Our fiscal house is basically on fire. Trump drives GOP senator to quit in shock announcement. He threatened to campaign against Tillis, who was worried that Medicaid cuts would leave many without health care in his state. Trump badgered Tillis again on Sunday morning, saying the senator has hurt the great people of North Carolina. Later Sunday, Tillis issued a lengthy statement announcing he would not seek Re-election in 2026. Republicans are using their majorities to push aside Democratic opposition, but have run into a series of political and policy setbacks. Not all GOP lawmakers are on board with proposals to reduce spending on Medicaid, food stamps, and other programs as a way to help cover the cost of extending some $3.8 trillion in Trump tax breaks. Renewed pressure to oppose the bill came from Elon Musk, who criticized it as utterly insane and destructive if the Senate is able to pass the package in the days ahead. The bill would return to the House for a final round of votes before it could reach the White House. Tax breaks and core job priorities at its core. The legislation would make permanent many of the tax breaks from Trump's first term that would otherwise expire by year's end. Congress fails to act, resulting in a potential tax increase on Americans. The bill would add new breaks, including no taxes on tips, and commit $350 billion to national security, including for Trump's mass deportation agenda, but the cutbacks to Medicaid, food stamps, and green energy investments are also causing dissent within GOP ranks. Senator Ron Wyden said the environmental rollbacks would amount to a death sentence. For America's wind and solar industries, the Republicans are relying on the reductions to offset the lost tax revenues, but some lawmakers say the cuts go too far, particularly for people receiving health care through Medicaid. Meanwhile, conservatives worried about the nation's debt are pushing for steeper cuts. Democrats can't filibuster, but can stall using a congressional process called budget reconciliation. The Republicans can muscle the bill through on a simple majority vote in the Senate rather than the typical 60-vote threshold needed to overcome objections. Without the filibuster, Democrats in the minority have to latch on to other tools to mount their objections. One is the full reading of the bill text, which has been done. In past situations, Senator Ron Johnson, R-WIS, forced a 2021 reading of a COVID relief package. Democrats also intend to use their full 10 hours of available debate time now underway, and then Democrats are prepared to propose dozens of amendments to the package that would be considered in an all-night voting session or all day, depending on the hour. A roll call full of drama as Saturday's vote tally teetered. Attention turned to Senator Lisa Murkowski, R. Alaska, who was surrounded by GOP leaders in intense conversation. She voted yes. Several provisions in the package are designed for her state in Alaska. A short time later, Majority Leader John Thune, RSD, drew holdouts Senator Rick Scott of Florida, Mike Lee of Utah, and Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming to his office. Vice President G.D. Vance joined in. The talks dragged on. Then Vance led them all back in to vote. Later, Scott said he had met with the president, adding, "We all want to get to yes." Lee said the group had an internal discussion about the strategy to achieve more savings and more deficit reduction, and I feel good about the direction where this is going, and more to come. The Senate clerks completed the full reading of the Senate GOP's massive tax and spending bill on Sunday afternoon, allowing the chamber to start the countdown clock toward a final vote on the package sometime. On Monday, Democrats, in an attempt to delay passage of the bill, forced the clerks to read aloud all 940 pages of the package, an endeavor that clocked in at 15 hours and 55 minutes and ended shortly after PMT. I objected to stop Republicans moving forward on their big, ugly bill until they read every single word of it to the American people. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer D9 wrote on the social platform X on Saturday night. Senate Majority Leader John Thune RSD thanked the clerks. I would like to start by just taking a moment to thank the clerks who stayed Up all night reading the amendment and getting us to this point. I know it was a long night and that we're not finished yet, but I want them to know the Senate appreciates their dedication, their stamina, and their service. He said, the chamber will now begin up to 20 hours of debate equally, divided between the two sides, before an unlimited series of amendment. Votes known as a vote, a Rama, is set to begin.